Productive Pastor 102, Why Small Tasks Are No Fun. What's going on, friends? It's great to have you back. Chad Brooks here, Productive Pastor. We talk and have conversations about healthy ministry through strategic productivity. You might be saying, Chad, there's 2 episodes in 1 week. What's going on? Well, I left y'all hanging for a while. You know, we missed a week. I want to get that stuff going back out, but also I love coming on, talking about these things with y'all, talking about the everyday struggles, what ministry looks like, trying not to be overburdened, trying to find a margin, but also trying to be effective in our call to pastor people and to lead churches. And I don't know about you, but I found out that small tasks are often the things that get pushed from day to day to day to day. So I'm going to share a little bit about some of the ways I have just learned to deal with small tasks. Before we do that, just a couple things real quick. I talked about this in the last episode, talked about it online a lot. I've got a special Memorial Day course coming loose. The wait list opens up next week. And this is what this course is about. This course is unique for several reasons. One of the reasons that it's unique is the fact that it's only available for 4 days, 4 days only. And what I'm going to be trying to tackle in this course is the question I always get from people saying, hey, Chad, have you found a ministry planner you recommend? Now, thousands of pastors over the last decade have downloaded my daily timesheet. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes if you want to find that. I've given that away. People have used that like crazy. But I have been making different versions of that for myself, but also I probably have 20 other templates I use inside of GoodNote 6, or I used to print them out and go completely old school analog, and I'm going to want to give all those to folks on Memorial Day, special course. So jump on the wait list. The best way you can find out that right now is just to go over to the show notes, revchadbrooks.com/PPP/102. Sign up for Productive Pastor email list. That will let you know when the wait list opens up. But I've also got some incredible stuff as part of the wait list. The wait list email sequence is going to be there. So this is not going to be expensive. I think it's going to be, I think I decided ultimately, $27. So this is not an expensive course, but I would love to see you and have you. And if you want to take full advantage of this, make sure you're on the wait list early and you get all of the 7 or 8 days of email content that comes out before that. But we're here to talk about small tasks not being fun today, not about this coming up Memorial Day course. This is the thing. I want to do a bit of differentiation here. You know, I've done several episodes about procrastination. And as I did research on this episode, there's a lot of psychological understandings about why small tasks can be such a booger to people. And there's also the idea of sometimes it's about productivity. And we're going to talk about the latter. I'm not a psychologist. I have an MDiv, but I'm a pastor, not a psychologist. So there's, a bunch of stuff out there. We've got a lot of episodes on procrastination that you might find interesting. Those will be in the show notes. I also found a pretty good article from Vice, of all places, that talks more about the psychological dynamics of just small tasks. But we're not going to cover that today. We're going to talk about more productivity-related ideas. But this is kind of the big picture going on. Small tasks are no fun because so many times we cannot quickly identify the purpose of the task and why the task matters. So we're going to talk about 5 things today that help us understand why small tasks are no fun, but also the things that we can do to get them done. I'm not going to say to make them fun, but to get them done. The first one is this. You're unclear of what the purpose of the task is. Many times, those things that we put off are simply tasks that we have not identified as important. Or sometimes we might even have a disjointed relationship with the project or the person or something like that. And so we put it off because we don't want to deal with something. No, something is off inside of our idea of why this matters. That's why we might be putting the task off. We might be struggling to understand how this task actually moves things forwards. And for some of us, just maintaining things is a drag. And we don't know or understand really how well to work in a maintainer reality. Now, I always go to Clifton Strengths for so many sorts of things. My second strength is activator. I love to get things started, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. I love to get things started. And if it's something that's really big, because one of my other strengths is significance, I love to work on important things. I love to work on things that matter to me. And what I have found out is in the small tasks, whenever things begin to fall off the mattering map, I guess we can call it that, that's when I will struggle to get them done. A lot of times also if tasks drop in that aren't really related to anything large, it's just one of those, hey, can you take care of this? Or hey, I've got a quick question, that sort of a stuff. That's when small tasks are going to fall aside, especially my vocational life has changed a lot in the last few years, and it's changing again. I shared about that in the last episode. But sometimes we just have little things to do that really aren't attached to something that might be motivating us. And in that regard, what we have to realize is the larger idea of ministry, the larger mission that we are working forwards on, sometimes is we have to get the understanding of the significance of that in order to realize, hey, this is no big thing. It's going to take me 2 or 3 minutes to take care of. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do this because this matters. David Allen, in his classic book, Getting Things Done, talks about the 2-minute task. And pretty much what he teaches in that method is if it's going to take 2 minutes or less to do it, then just do it right now. Don't put it off. I don't necessarily do that because I hate context switching. And context switching can especially just throw me off of my own focuses. So what I'll do is a lot of times I'll push those things to a bit of time in the afternoon. Sometimes I call these tasks small ball. Small ball is really just that. It's just small ball. It's different from a tiny, huge task. I've talked about tiny, huge tasks before. Tiny, huge tasks are tiny tasks that might have huge significance. But when it's just literally just a small ball thing, I'll try to dedicate, 20 or 30 minutes towards the end of the day, the middle of the afternoon when I'm just really not at my best. And I'm just going to say, hey, I'm going to knock these things out. I'm going to go ahead and just, cruise through them. Get them off. The second thing is sometimes we might have forgotten what the purpose of that task is. And if it's small, but is part of a larger whole, what I'll just remind myself is the bigger vision of this project is something I can still get behind. And me taking care of this small task, this email, this little quick sort, or, just that sort of a thing leads me towards the bigger picture of something that I really am passionate about and I really do care about a lot. And so we're unclear about what the purpose of the task is. That's one of the reasons that small tasks cannot be fun. The next thing is maybe a strategy is this. Can this task be minimized to even more tasks? Because here's the thing. You might be putting that thing off because it seems complex or it's something you don't have clarity on necessarily. I'm learning so much from Jocko Willink right now about the power of clarity and that when we don't understand something or when somebody who's reporting to us maybe doesn't understand something, that might be one of the big hiccups in getting this thing accomplished. So sometimes we just don't have enough clarity on it. And in those situations, what you might learn is to do something that's going to accomplish that task, you need to maybe drill it down even to smaller tasks. You have to make it smaller, you have to make it more digestible. And I know you might be saying, Chad, this small thing is already so inconsequential, I don't want to get it done. But what I found out is if that small task is really, if I'm pushing it forward several weeks and I'm aware of that and the way I'm keeping up with my stuff, especially if stuff's changing lately, one of the new things that's part of this template pack coming out for Memorial Day is a new sheet I've been having to use for the last 6 weeks every day. That's just it's just simply a list of every single thing that I'm doing that day. I don't realize oftentimes how 30, 45-second tasks that might seem to be terribly inconsequential really matter to the bigger whole. But then sometimes I realize, hey, this small thing I'm putting off actually is 4 separate tiny little steps. And when I can reduce it down, it's like that 2 or 3 minute task actually turns into 4 15-second tasks. So just go ahead and get those done, especially if this thing seems to be a little bit bigger of a deal than you think it might be. What I found out sometimes is to drill it down and to minimize it even more tasks. And sometimes what that means is batching stuff. If I know I have 3 or 4 or 5 things that are going to have to get mailed that week, what I realize is, well, hey, let me take care of everything one day. Let me get them all stuff packaged up, addresses, that sort of thing one day. And then rather than driving to the post office every single day, I'm saying, hey, on Thursday afternoon, I'm going to drive to the post office and drop off all of these things. So that's the second way we can make our small tasks no fun, is to realize this might need to be minimized even more into more tasks. The third thing, I think this is especially appropriate and it's necessary for people that are struggling with productivity, is this. Is your dunner done for the day? This is a real thing, and we might be edging on into the psychological side of it, but I've found that I have a finite amount of energy for things that I can get done for the day. Because here's the deal, going back into Clifton strengths, I'm not an executor, which sounds really interesting. And when I talk with folks and they really are like, Chad, you seem to be able to get a lot of things done, but you're not an executor. No, totally not an executor whatsoever at all. I have different motivations that I've talked about, like my activator, my significance. But here's the deal. Those things can actually stop me sometimes when I'm just absolutely exhausted. Another assessment I'm a big fan of, and I'm certified coach in, is Paradigm Personalities Workplace Big Five. And one of the things that it talks about is a stress or energy recovery. And I found out when I initially took that assessment years ago, I actually have a very long ramp for energy recovery, that once I have hit, an emotional or an energy load, it takes me a long time to gain that energy back. Some people can rebound really, really quickly. I can't. When my brain is done, especially like, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes it's done for the day. It's absolutely done. I've done a lot of mid-level stuff and these things that are mid-level, and I'm not talking like priority or intelligence or ability-wise, but these things that you can kind of accomplish. I think in the Becoming Productive course, I call this, Carey Newhoff calls them yellow zone tasks in his book, At Your Best. I call these dealing tasks in the Becoming Productive course. If I'm in a dealing mode and I've been doing a bunch of dealing tasks, I can just get tired really easily, especially now since I work primarily from home. If I've been by myself all day long and I've not had a chance to have a phone conversation or a Zoom conversation with a friend or a colleague that's not like high level and that we just kind of get to interact and such, I can get like tired even quicker. That's one of the things I miss about an office is, there was multiple times throughout the day you could just have social interactions with people, and I really don't have that much anymore. And there's other strategies I've been working on to get around that. But if my dunner is done for the day, that's a real thing. And a lot of different stuff can affect my dunner. That's why I'm a big fan of what Cal Newport calls time block planning or fixed schedule productivity. Is I try to become aware of where in the day and then especially where in the week my dunner can just be done. And you have to be aware of where you are inside of that larger paradigm, because if your dunner is done for the day, even the small, tiny, inconsequential, insignificant tasks are going to be like, yep, that ain't getting done. I'm just too tired. And then we're not going to talk about this. There's other episodes where I'll talk about how to get over this. If you need to get over it, absolutely. But just be aware, like, what is your dunner level? The fourth thing that makes small tasks a little bit more fun is to keep a task list and a daily log. I talked about this earlier in the episode, and I've got, there's going to be planner templates for both of these things in the upcoming Memorial Day course for my task list and a daily log. But this matters to me so much because I'm at a spot in ministry where I don't have as much influence over my schedule as I used to. I have to be, and I need to be more responsive. And so with this log, and the log is especially a place I've been learning a lot from lately, is that log helps me understand the things I am focusing on. It helps me understand where I might be context switching in my day and how I might have to respond to different things across each day. Because I have found myself in reactive mode a little bit because there's new things that are really important coming up. And that's where I've noticed I just kind of fall into reactivity is, let me take care of this really quick because it involves somebody else or it's involved this thing that's big, or I don't know where this other person is and we're communicating via text and I might need to take care of this instantly. That time log and that task list helps me sort out. And one of the things I'm kind of curious about right now, I've not run the numbers on it, but to see how much of what I'm doing that day was not on my task list for the day. And I'm suspicious that if over 50% of our work is coming outside of our planned intentional productivity for the day, I think that we're going to hit some levels of burnout. The dunner is going to be done, all those sorts of things. And so I think keeping a task list and a daily log is important. Now you might be saying, Chad, this sounds way overboard. It might be. This is probably not the kind of thing that you need to be doing all of the time. But if you're experiencing overwhelm, if you're experiencing a significant more amount of energy drain, if you're experiencing some funkiness in your productivity, it might be a season where you need to keep a task list and a daily log. Now, the last thing is this, and I've talked about this in a lot of places. This is about one way to help small tasks be more fun, is just to realize this as well. Moving things forward does change us. I think it's important for us to take care of these small tasks. I think when we can attach these smaller tasks to the bigger picture of things, we can handle them better. I refer back to an HBR article all the time. I'm going to have to go find it again and link it in the show notes. It's one of the things I talk about so much I can't remember the name of it. But it's an ancient study that was done about having people self-describe what it means and what the difference is between a good day and a bad day. And what the research found was when someone feels like they accomplish things, they will self-describe their day as good. And so I think having a good working and keeping system, I think sometimes having that daily log is there to where you might be at the end of the day saying, I am absolutely tired. I'm exhausted. I can't wait for home, for dinner, for family, for exercise, for whatever I do. But wow, look at how I got all of these things done today. I might not have even planned for them, but I got so much stuff done. So I hope this episode's helped you understand, a little bit why you might find small tasks not being fun. I hope this episode's also helped you understand that there is a strategic way forward through small tasks. It attaches them to the bigger picture at hand. And what you might be saying is, Chad, I don't understand the bigger picture at hand. Well, that's another episode, friends. That's going to be something else entirely different. But hey, hit me back on the socials to come hang out in the Productive Pastor community, whatever. Let me know about what you think about small tasks. Like, how are small tasks in your ministry world? Are they difficult? Are they not difficult? Is this a thing you've never thought about? Or this might be a thing where you're saying, Chad, oh my goodness, this is totally living in my brain right now. But as always, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being part of Productive Pastor. This is about a community of folks that are striving for healthy ministry through strategic productivity. Always appreciate your listens. Make sure to share this episode with a friend. Share it on the internet somewhere. Send an email to somebody about it. Also, y'all are awesome. Thanks so much for sticking around, episode 102, and I will be back with you next week for another episode of Productive Pastor.